Welcome to Imperfect Company, the podcast where great founders tell the real story of building, the mess, the mistakes, and all of it. I'm Leigh Jasper, founder of AConneX, now building Firmable and investing through Glitch Capital.
And I'm Sam Kroonenburg, founder of A Cloud Guru and now Cuttable, and also investing through Glitch. And in every episode, we sit down with a founder, we hear about their backstory, we hear about some of the scrapes and the scars and the challenges they've had along the way. And just a little bit more of the experience that they've lived more deeply than anyone else.
And today our guest is Didier Elzinga, a co-founder of Culture Amp. And I'm sure many people listening will know some of this story, but we're going to go deep. Going to go through some of the good, the bad, the ugly, and then the good. But yeah, obviously a fantastic journey, and love to get into that with you.
Excited to be here.
So Didier's background was he was in Hollywood for 13 years, or serving Hollywood through Rising Sun Pictures out of Adelaide, and then took the decision to leave all that behind and go and start a SaaS business in culture of all things, in people management talent. Why?
That is the least predictable path to people and culture that I've ever heard. Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Yeah, how did that happen and why and wherefore?
So if we back up a little bit, I did computer science at the University of Adelaide, and then sort of rolled into a job at Rising Sun Pictures. And actually the way I got the job was kind of funny, where I was working for the Apple store at the time, and I went to a conference and saw this guy running this company with these cool computers. And I said, can I come and see what you're doing? He said, sure. So I went around there. This was Rising Sun Pictures, and there was about 6 people there at the time. And they had an Indie with a Jazz drive, if you remember Jazz drives.
Yeah.
Sitting next to this Indie SGI. And I looked at it, and I'm like, are you having trouble getting the Jazz drive to work with the Indie? And he's like, yeah. I said, which version of RX are you running? And he said 6.01 or something. I said, oh, you won't get it to work until you get it back up to 6.1. The upgrade from 5.11 to 6.0 didn't work. And he's like, oh, okay. And then I was there with a friend. We walked out. My friend's like, what was that? Like, you have no idea about those things. And I'm like, I didn't. But I'd read a news group article the day before. And that was the one thing I knew about Silicon Graphics computers, was that you couldn't use a Jazz drive on that particular version of RX. And it was enough for him to give me a call. He offered me a job as a sysadmin. So I started life as a sysadmin.
And you'd done computer science and knew a little bit about it.
I knew a little bit. I knew my way around Unix. I'd been working in computer graphics and stuff like that. So I kind of was in the right space. But I remember asking him, he's like, essentially, would you come in and just do stuff around the place? And I just asked him if they had manuals. And he said, yes. And I said, yep, I'm in. So started as a software engineer.
So you were working at the Apple store?
Yeah, well, it was... If you remember back then, Apple wasn't as cool as it is now.
Yeah.
So at the time, Apple's only industry was education. And so what they did is, on almost every university campus, they would create an Apple store on campus that sold to students and also to the departments.
Yeah.
And they would have a student rep. And so a student would apply to work there. And so I'd just do casual work on the weekends.
All the unis had the Mac labs back then, right? Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And so he walks in to the Apple store and you just ask if you can come.
Well, no, I was actually I was at Comdex, the conference, on behalf of Camtech, the company that was doing it, and I saw him there.
I see.
So I started as a software engineer, ended up as an artist, was a CEO, ended up as the CEO of the company. So the 4 people that founded that company entrusted their company to a 26-year-old. So we can go back and talk about that. But to give the question of how did Culture Amp come about, it was a combination of 2 different things. One was, I'd already built another software company in the film space. So we built a color management software to make your monitors look the same. And we also built synchronized QuickTime Player that Christopher Nolan used.
Which still hasn't quite been solved, has it? Monitors never quite look the same.
They're a lot better now than they were then. But I can make 2 monitors look the same. That is one of my superpowers.
So Christopher Nolan uses what?
We wrote a piece of software called CineSync.
Okay.
And so it was basically to make both ends look at the same thing at the same time. So the director could go, oh, on this frame, I want this. On that frame, I want that.
Right. Okay. I see.
Yeah. And actually, as a slight aside, the realization that made that product work was, at the time, the people that were building it were all solving it by using a synchronized clock. It's quite a hard problem because the internet wasn't that reliable at the time. We had this realization that it doesn't matter if you're synchronized or not, as long as you stop on the same frame. So all we did was sync the control information.
Right.
So someone would hit stop on frame 24 and it would sync that to the other end, and the other one would stop on frame 24. And it actually gave the perfect simulation of the 2 of you being replicated. And then we had annotation tools and all that sort of stuff.
Wow.
But we built it because we needed it to be a visual effects company in Australia. So how did Culture Amp start? I was the CEO. I'd been CEO for 5 years. 3 years before I stepped out, I went through Entrepreneur of the Year.
Yeah, well, I think that's where we first met.
That's where we first met. Yeah. And it's when Mike and Scott won. So they were the youngest ever winners of the whole thing. And so over the next 3 years, and then I think you and I first met at the second time because I won it twice.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
All right, you had another crack at it.
Yeah, that's where I first heard your story.
You're still young enough, Sam, to go again with Cuttable if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'm okay.
Go for 3.
I'm happy with 1.
Go for 3.
I've won a few awards that you've won. Anyway, we won't go into that.
Were you a PSC?
Yeah, the PSC one. Yeah. I'm following you.
I just remember going through Victoria with Rob and but of course coming up against Mike and Scott, of course they're going to win. So we got to know those guys.
But that's tough competition.
Yeah, getting to know them and seeing the business. When we met each other, our businesses were roughly the same size. So Rising Sun was doing about 20 million a year. Atlassian was doing about 20 million a year. And over the next 3 years, their business continues to grow. We were essentially running a service business for Hollywood.
Yep.
And that is a very difficult business model.
Yep.
And I was thinking about it and I was like, this is a really hard world to be in. And also, was I going to make enough of a dent in the universe continuing to make films for Hollywood? Like I loved it, absolutely loved it. I worked on Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, all of Superman, etc. But it's
cool. That'd be a lot of people's dream job.
I know,
right?
It's a death march
from the outside.
Yeah, from the outside. Like,
the average Harry Potter just
yeah, the average Harry Potter film has 2,500 man years worth of computer graphics done on it. So there's like 10 companies with anywhere from 100 to 1,000 people working for 18 months straight.
Wow.
And in the last 3 months, you're working 7 days a week.
Because you got to get it done.
Got to get it done. The film's got to go. And, you're fighting computers all the way and all this sort of stuff.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm still young. And it was actually my wife, Greta, who sort of said to me, you can fail. Like, go try something. You're young enough to fail. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to go build another software company. Because I'd already built a software company in film. I didn't want to run this service business anymore. I want to build a technology company. I want to build an Atlassian-style monotonic revenue curve business. What do I care about? I care about people and culture. And I realized when I look back over everything I'd done in film, almost all of it was me looking at how people ran projects, going, there's got to be a better way to bring people together. And so I was applying a lot of the early lean, agile ideas to how we would do film. And I was just really interested in how do you bring a group of people together to solve a problem. And so that's basically why I started doing it. And also at the time, as the CEO, I tried to buy some HR software.
Nothing great.
Oh my God, it was bad.
Yeah.
And so that was the itch.
Yeah, there was a lot to solve there. Okay.
So you spin up. So you had a couple of other founders. Was that?
No. Well, yes, I did. We did. We started the company together. But the way it happened was we moved from Adelaide to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And part of the rationale was I loved Adelaide. Lived there till I was 30. Great city. Still think it's a great city. I knew from Rising Sun I could get 10 of the best people in the world to come.
Yeah.
You just got to pick them at the right time. If they have a family or whatever, Adelaide's got an incredible quality of life. But I couldn't get 100.
Right.
And so I felt like if I wanted to get 100, I probably wanted to be in a Melbourne or a Sydney.
Yeah.
Could go overseas, but we decided we just had our first kid, so we decided we didn't want to go overseas. So it was Melbourne or Sydney. We ended up in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I was talking at an event, and I ran into Tom Howard from Adioso.
Right.
So Tom and Fen, who a lot of people, you should get them on this actually.
Yeah.
Because they were in the first YC batch.
Oh, wow.
Like they are the OGs.
Yeah, right.
And they built Adioso.
In the very first YC
I'm pretty sure it was the first one. Maybe it was the second or something, but like they are really, really early in that process. And so Tom Howard was talking at an event I was talking at, and he kind of said, where are you? You're in Melbourne. You should come along to this dinner. And there was a bunch of founders at this dinner that were just coming together to compare notes.
Yeah.
And I met John Williams, and then he introduced me to Doug. And then I came and started sitting next to them just not far from here in Cremorne.
Yeah.
And we sat next to each
Before
other.
Cremorne was even a thing.
Back then, you should have seen the mold on the wall where we were.
It's co-working space?
Yeah, it was the first version of i9, Inspire 9.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so we sat next to each other for 6 months. And then there was a moment where we looked at each other, and they were building their own startup that hadn't really worked out, and they were thinking about going back into consulting.
Yeah.
And I kind of said, I've got a problem that needs some engineers. There's some engineers that need a problem. Why don't we join forces? And they said, well, if we're going to do it, we always wanted to bring in this guy, Rod Hamilton. So we said, all right, let's do it. So they came on board, and that was really where Culture Amp came from.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you first set up, how did you divide? What did each of you own, the four of you?
So that was one of those funny moments where obviously I started Culture Amp owned 100% of it, and founded it that way.
Yep.
When I was talking to John, Doug, and Rod, I talked to a whole bunch of people about their advice, and you get lots of different views on it.
Yep.
The advice that I chose to listen to was, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, at the end of the day, different people will show up at different times. And so we went 4 ways, 25, 25, 25,
Yep.
25.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking one of the hard parts, and Rod's heard me tell this story many times, like I knew John, because John's one of the smartest engineers I've ever met. And I knew Doug because I'd worked with him. I didn't know Rod from a bar of soap.
Yeah.
But I kind of went, well, if I'm backing these guys, I've got to back their judgment.
Yeah.
But I did go from 100 to 33 to 25.
25%.
And I went, let's go do it. And, it was
Which is the biggest dilution you ever get.
100%.
Yeah.
Would have been on a co-founder or three co-founders in that case.
I personally think it's the right way to go, because otherwise you introduce tricky dynamics, tricky dynamics, and then resentment can come up, and
there are different setups. Like sometimes, organizations are started by more experienced entrepreneurs that are bringing in other people, and you can have different. But when you're all roughly the same,
Rob and I were equal at Aconex, but then it was a different structure for Firmable because we had different experiences when we came together.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But they're often the hardest challenges, and people often ask me, how do you find a co-founder? I'm like, I have no idea. Like I literally ended up sitting next to these people, and it seemed like a good idea. And history tells us it was, but like...
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've all seen from an investment point of view, businesses that blow up because the co-founders don't get along.
And I won't say who the person was for them, but it was actually another person before who I tried to convince to be a co-founder. And we'd essentially agreed that we were going to do it. And we worked together for like a month to sort of try it out. And then we both basically said... I said to him, he couldn't make it enough of a priority. Like I wasn't, I didn't require him to put everything into what I was doing, because I was on the board of Tourism Australia at the time. That was how I was paying the bills. So it wasn't like I needed everything, but I'm like, if you're in this, it has to be the first thing on the list. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the only thing on the list, but it has to be the first thing on the list. And it wasn't. And so we decided not to do it. Yeah. And he tells me he rues that decision.
I bet.
Yeah. But who knows what would have happened if we'd gone down that path.
And so when you started, what was the first thing you were trying to build, the four of you?
So I had started to, before I met them, I had set out to solve the problem of performance reviews. So I was like, why is it that we have this once a year annual backwards looking thing when it should be a continuous coaching conversation? And so they came on board to help me build that out. We actually had some customers, but it just wasn't going anywhere.
Okay.
And so we realized pretty quickly that it was a universal problem without a universal solution. And we ended up pivoting to a different idea. And so we sort of were a bit more disciplined. So it took us 6 months to kind of go, this idea isn't going to work. And, it was, we had paid customers, but it was just like, it was so hard. I could get into a room with a CEO and get them to go, this is a great idea. But then 6 months would go by and they couldn't decide if they were going to pilot it or not, and how much they pay for it or not. So it didn't quite get there. So we said, okay, we're going to try a different idea. We gave ourselves 6 weeks on this one. And we killed it. For anybody that's ever read the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, it was basically that idea. What if you had a GitHub for processes? So you could just document anything you were doing, and then somebody could fork it and so on. It's actually very similar to what a lot of people are doing in AI right now. But once again, it was too high concept an idea. And we also had somebody who was, NAB was actually interested in piloting it, because both Doug and John had worked at NAB. But we got this moment where 2 weeks went by and they still wouldn't pilot the software, but they were willing to pay $2,500 a day to have either of them consult to them. And we're like, okay, the pilot was going to cost $2,500. So it was going to take 2 weeks to get $2,500 for a pilot, yet you'll pay us $200. This isn't going to work. And so we pivoted to the third idea, which was what Culture Amp basically is known for, which is around this concept of organizational listing or employee engagement. And it came out of a couple of things. It came out of conversations that I'd had with my wife, Greta, because she had a background in psychology and she was really thinking about some of these things. And she introduced me to a guy by the name of Dr. Jason McPherson, who was also a psychologist. He did his PhD with Greta, and he was in that space. And so he came on board, and I came home and said to Greta, how smart is Jason? And she said, he's the two things. She said, he's the guy the stats lecturers go to when they have a problem. And if you hire him, I'll let you put more of our money into the company. So we hired Jason, and he became our first employee around building this product.
Right. And you always had a view to keep it pretty cheap, right? Or low cost from the point of view of, this wasn't enterprise. This is get it out at a low cost, 10K a year kind of cost. I think.
Yeah. So actually, I'm glad you said that because when I was still in Adelaide, and so it's funny, I just now stepped into the exec chair role, and people ask me about it, and I'm like, actually, it's the second time I've done this. Like, I was the CEO at Rising Sun Pictures when I left, and so I stepped out of the CEO role, and for a period of time, I had a desk in the office in the Rising Sun research part, and so I was just sort of sitting down the end while Rising Sun was continuing to run, and I don't have the piece of paper, but I can still see it in my eye. I wrote down courage and vulnerability as the two core values that were important to me. And I wrote 10,000 by 10,000 equals 100 million.
Yep.
I want to build a business where tens of thousands of companies are spending tens of thousands of dollars a year and we'll have hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And I think it was inspired a lot by what Atlassian had
was
done,
doing,
where at that time, I remember thinking quite clearly at that time, and because now is so different, B2C was everything.
Yeah.
Like no one in tech wanted to do B2B.
Yeah.
It was all Facebook and all of that stuff.
Or it was heavy enterprise.
But even heavy enterprise, not a lot of startups wanted to.
No, that's right.
And so I was looking at going, I don't want to do enterprise sales, but I don't want to do B2C. I want to do B2B, but I want to do it in a more, open way. And so, it was very much that idea of
That's
democratization.
Yeah.
Huh.
So tick on that. Looking, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but yeah.
Well, and we got this moment, how many years into the journey where we realized, okay, we're about to pass 100 million in revenue. It's not that interesting. Like no one really cares whether you're 50 million or 100 million or 100. I mean, investors do, but like
but it was a meaningful side. Yeah, it was.
So we actually talked. That's when our real mission came to life, where we said, actually, the mission had always been to create a better world of work. What we realized was that we want to amplify the experience and the impact that 100 million people can have. So we actually did a little symbolic switch at that point, where we said the 100 million we're chasing is now no longer the 100 million in revenue.
100 million people.
It's the 100 million people.
Yeah.
So it feels like what would you call it? Employee engagement became a really big hot topic, hot theme over the last 10 years. When you started, was it? And I guess what I'm asking is, did you ride the wave or did you help create the wave?
Which leans into your people geek manifesto a bit as well.
A bit of both, because it already existed, but it was largely consulting, and large companies would bring in a Towers Watson or a Connexa or an Aon Hewitt to run these things. And so we were looking at that going, why don't we take that and make it available to everyone through technology? And that was really our insight, was that the problem was not a lack of knowledge, it was a lack of accessibility.
Yeah.
And we thought about it in terms of, you needed, to pull it off, you needed engineering, like data science and engineering, you needed user experience, and you needed psychology or people science. There was no one in the market that cared about all three.
Yeah.
There were people that cared about one or two, and we wanted to care about all three. And so that was the opportunity.
Yeah.
We were the right time, because our first customers were all Valley companies.
Yeah.
Because they were now exploding, growing really fast, and they cared about data, and they were trying to figure out how to bring it to their people. So we had this audience of people that are like, why am I bringing a consultant in to run something and then wait 2 months for a report? Like, I've got,
need it now.
And our first board member, Wes Chan, when he was at Google, he bought Urchin and turned it into Google Analytics. Right. And so one of our early slogans was kind of like Google Analytics for culture.
For culture,
like,
yeah. And the tech companies kind of drove the initial adoption of this.
Yeah.
And a huge part of the customer base.
Yeah, a huge part. Yeah. I mean, less so now. We're probably like 20% tech now. But early on, much more. But that was also because they were more progressive and they were just hiring faster.
Yeah.
Like other companies weren't adding headcount like the tech companies were.
Yeah.
And in many ways, there was a wave on marketing tech, and then HR tech came behind that wave.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of gamifying the experience a little bit, wasn't it? Like gamifying the experience of employee engagement analytics and.
Well, just making it visible.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you think about like, who would run a tech company with no stack telling you what your customers were doing?
Yeah.
Who would run a company with no stack telling you what your people are doing?
Yeah. Like, everyone, apparently.
Yeah. But the beauty of it is it's not just the observability and productivity. It's actually the sentiment, how they're feeling, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
Huh. And then People Geek, when did you coin that? And
so People Geek became the name for our community.
Which was a tech, leaning in heavily to tech.
Well, it was one of those funny things where we were experimenting with different ideas. So first of all, we were trying to build a community, and like anything, you have no money. So how do you build a community? So we would fly to the US and then we'd set up these meetings in a pub somewhere, and we'd just put out a note and we'd bring together all these people, and we were like, how does this work? And we realized that there was no forum for these people to talk to each other. And so we would put out a call, and then we'd be in a bar in New York, and we'd get the head of HR for Chanel, the head of HR for Etsy, the head of HR for, you know, some consulting company, and they'd not had a chance to come together and talk together about these issues of like, what do you do when you're trying to grow fast, and how do you build your culture, and what does high performing culture look like, etc. So we started building this community of people, and then we were trying to name it. And we came up with a bunch of different names, and People Geek was actually a bit of a riff on Data Nerd, which was the New Relic line.
Yes, the New Relic. Yeah.
And anyway, we created a t-shirt. No, we didn't create a t-shirt. We created the slogan, and we were on a call with a customer, and he was wearing a People Geek t-shirt. I'm like, where did you get that t-shirt? And he's like, oh, I saw the name and I liked it so much I made a t-shirt. And I remember John walked out and he said, when a customer turns your slogan into a t-shirt, you don't try and change the slogan.
That's right. You start printing t-shirts.
You just keep going. You start printing t-shirts.
Let's start selling t-shirts.
Yeah. But it's that whole community thing is an interesting one, because I remember people always ask, we often get asked, you know, how did you build that community? Because it's been a huge part of our success. And at a certain point, we currently have like 120 self-organizing chapters around the world. They're called Culture First chapters now, but people that don't work for us that come together and talk about these topics and bring all this stuff together.
Yeah.
You know, how did you pull it off? The most important thing that made that work was that was the DNA of the company. So when we ran those events, it was an engineer on the door. It was legal, you know, helping somebody serve somebody drinks, whatever. Like everybody was all hands on deck. You can't hire a growth team and ask them to build a community. Yeah. Like the whole company has to want to be part of it.
Cloud Guru was the same. Like, big community company. It came from, like, you didn't engineer it. It came from us going, oh, this, like, nobody's talking about this stuff. Why don't we just go and start a meetup? Let's go host something in, you know, some office in the city. Let's turn up in New York. And it was exactly the same. Like, the team, our team doing it, no one hired to do it, just us all flying around. And I think that's the only way you can do it authentically, right? It's like grassroots.
Yeah. And I think it's part of the benefit of being an Australian startup is you get on the plane, you fly over there and you go like, how are we allowed to do this? Oh, well, might as well.
Yeah.
So the rest of your go-to-market was pretty standard, was it? Or
go-to-market was an inbound motion.
Which actually wasn't standard when you were...
Yeah, I mean, HubSpot
might be now
stuff was
PLG
starting to popularize it. We were famous for not paying commission.
Right.
Until we got to about 100 million in revenue.
Not even to salespeople?
No, sir. No. We could spend the rest of the podcast me explaining why that's the case.
There's a good theory as to why that's the case, but I could argue the counter as well. But
I mean, I can argue the counter myself now, but it's only a cynical one in the sense that you know there's plenty of psychological research to show that money is a very poor motivator of high cognitive load. Money works really well for low cognitive load. So if you are literally just cold calling people, it works great because it's hard to motivate somebody to do the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. But most of what we care about is not low cognitive load, it's high cognitive load. Money's not a good driver of that. You still have to pay good salespeople well. So there's no way out of it.
So you still paid people well?
Still pay people well. The thing that we learnt over time is the primary reason for paying commission now is it's just too much cognitive lift to explain to people why you don't.
Yeah,
the whole industry is so heavily set up that way that you're just fighting it constantly.
You're the outlier.
Is that the best use of everyone's time and energy just trying to do something new?
Yeah.
And that is something I've had to learn as a startup founder, that part of what you bring is a willingness and desire to do things differently, which is great.
Yeah.
But everything has cognitive load cost. And like when you change the words, it costs something.
We had that with A-Connect where we had we didn't have a seat model. We were just charging per project or based on the number or the volume of projects people were doing, and explaining to US investors why we weren't per seat like every other SaaS business. Just, honestly, we started to get to the point, well, okay, and even some of our customers said, you can have a per seat if you want. Okay, here's a certain number of seats. You're going to want unlimited, but start with a certain number of seats. But it was just not worth the effort to try and change it. So we sort of leaned into it, but it seems like very similar view. You just end up having to.
So was your pushback from salespeople when you had to explain that? Because you would imagine from the outside, it's like, oh, great, I get my salary without, like, it's low risk. But was the pushback that, hey, there's no additional upside if I, like, is it the carrot of outperforming that they?
I mean, it's like, to be fair, we were successful. We hired a lot of people that were quota carrying, successful President's Club people that came in on a no commission basis. But the more people you hire and the harder it is, you just use up a lot of energy, and they're like, oh, okay, well, how does it happen? What happens here? And then it's just harder.
Yeah, and if you've got sales animals that are used to getting paid, if they're very high performance, if they're used to getting paid a lot if they outperform, maybe you're not getting the very top 10%.
And my argument against that would be that's possibly true, but often it's more of a team game than people think. Yeah. And I'd prefer to have top 90 percentile of everyone in the team rather than one superstar salespeople and 60% CS.
So did you plan this or stumble upon it? Were your first salespeople just not commissioned and you kind of grew that way, or did you had a view?
I had a view.
Okay. Yeah. The research shows.
Yeah, based on my own view of psychology and stuff, and also because I like being, heretical. Yeah. If anyone wants to read a really good book on this, there's a book called Prime to Perform by Lindsay McGregor and Neil Doshi, and they're both ex-McKinsey. Yeah. And they're great because they talk about it, and they're like, McKinsey's probably sold more commission-based plans to any other company. Well,
they're not commission-based.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they go through and they talk a little bit about it, and they basically break it all down and explain the challenges with it. It's not specifically about commission sales. It's actually about how do you create a motivational environment. But it's a really good book called Prime to Perform.
Yeah, I've written it down.
Yeah. Well, we used to get the same.
It's my form of heresy.
Yeah, but we'd have we'd have President's Club as well. So the best performers go there, and then we'd have our engineers saying, "Why can't we go to President's Club?" It's like, well, okay. But then
you could argue in today's world of AI,
maybe they blend
Club for engineers more
go
than
to market engineers,
Club for salespeople.
That's right. And we will come to AI. We need to make sure we have a bit of time because I know you've been doing some deep thing on that. Do you have anything else before we go to?
I just wanted to ask what else you're heretical on. Is there anything because I find that so fascinating. Where is there something else you're famously contrarian on?
Top 5 heretical thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I always actually quite like that question in interviews too, where you ask somebody what's something you believe that most other people don't.
Most people don't. Yeah.
I don't know if this is that heretical, but in the hiring process, one of the things I don't like is when hiring processes are set up with 5 steps, and each person basically says whether you should or shouldn't hire the person.
Yeah.
My view is you have to have a process. Like, it's really important to have a process, not just for equity reasons, but for a whole bunch of other reasons. But the hiring manager's job is to hire.
Yeah.
Every other person's job is to give an input to the hiring manager.
Yeah.
And so you actually want to set up the hiring process to go, today, what did you think about this person on blah, 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 so that I can make a decision whether I'm hiring. I'm not asking you whether I should hire the person.
Yeah.
That's not the question. Yet so many of the hiring processes basically become everybody has to say, yes, you can hire this person to get them to the next
decision
step.
by committee.
It's decision by committee. It doesn't,
And then do people end up then resenting, or I told them not to hire that person? Was it a bit
I just think you hire for absence of weakness rather than for abundance of strength.
Yeah.
And, you need the hiring manager to be accountable to, I'm going to make this, but no one's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I probably, as more heresies come to me,
No, I like that.
I'll
It's almost similar to ICs with investment decisions. If everybody's kind of a soft yes, that's less good than having someone who's strong
highly
yes
convicted,
and maybe a couple of no's.
Especially with the kind of power law nature of VC, they're actually looking for the thing that not everyone's picking.
Yeah, right. And so getting someone who strongly wants somebody. And maybe even in a world where we're hiring for different things now, that's perhaps even more true.
And this is not a heresy, but it's a heuristic that I realized about myself that I tell anyone when they work for me, which is I don't have to be right. Like, I'm more than happy for the person I'm talking to have a different opinion to me and to be right. And if it's often, when you're the CEO or a senior executive, you want them to be making the decisions, not you.
Yep.
But your conviction has to beat mine. Right. So if I come to you and go, I want to go right, and they're like, okay, but actually I think we should go left. I'm like, fine, I might be wrong. Let's go left.
Yeah.
But if they go, I'm not sure, I'm not sure which way we should go. I'm like, fine, we're going right.
We'll take my
And it's amazing how hard people seem to have that. They're like, I'm not ready to make a decision. You're like, well, I am.
Yeah.
And so, like,
but is that also a hierarchy? Is reporting to the CEO?
That's definitely in it, but I think it's one of those things.
You want to get people past that mindset.
Yeah, you want to get people into the things like, what I care about is conviction. Like, I want you to come with conviction, and I care more about the strength of your conviction than the direction of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And pushing for that more.
Yeah, I think that's one of the delineating factors, I think, between inexperienced and experienced leaders, or maybe weak and strong leaders, is do they have conviction? How strongly do they believe something? And how often do you hear, I'm not really sure?
Yeah.
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 Very cool.
So $10,000 a year is an inbound motion. Did you ever do any outbound or to
Yes.
bigger companies? So you started to build an outbound motion as well.
Yeah. We've had an outbound motion for a long time. I mean, the thing that's interesting about CultureAmp is we service everything from 10-person companies to 100,000-person companies. And that has both benefits and weaknesses. Our sweet spot is really from 100, 200 people up to, say, 5 to 10,000.
Yeah.
But we work with huge
mid-market.
companies. It's mid-market, but it's quite a wide part of mid-market.
Wide mid-market. Yeah. So worst day in the office. It's always building companies, as we know, has its very, very shitful days. Can you think of one or two that stand out?
Oh, I can think of many. So I'll go to two. One was actually before I met my co-founders, interestingly enough.
So you're by yourself at this point?
Yeah.
Solo founder?
Solo founder, working away on this problem. And we'd just moved to Melbourne. Jude was 3. Jasper had just been born. We've basically burned through all our savings.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate. I ended up on the board of Tourism Australia, so I had a little bit of income from that. But I was looking at just burning through all our capital. And I just remember lying there in bed, just bawling my eyes out going, what am I doing? Like, I was the CEO. I walked away. I was so hubristic to think that I could go do this thing. I've thrown all my money at it. And it was the thing that got me in that moment. I mean, there's a bit of failure, but also just how selfish I was being. Like, I wasn't thinking about Greta and what she was trying to do. I wasn't thinking about my kids. I was thinking about that I should be able to go build this great company. Like, I should be able to succeed. And it was a year and a half in or something like that. And so just thinking, and Greta taught me off the ledge.
So a year and a half in as a solo founder.
Well, I mean, it was basically in the wilderness.
And no revenue, no
Well,
product.
I didn't even know what I was building at that time.
Okay.
I was trying to solve the performance review problem, but you're kind of like in and out. And
So who was building it? You were building
just
it?
me.
So
Yeah, I was
you're
coding.
coding.
Yeah, okay. I'd worked with a couple of guys along the way to build it out. But yeah, just trying to somehow cobble something together.
It's also hard being a solo founder. I kind of admire people that do it because if you get the right co-founder, that can be when you have those tough
exactly.
times.
You've got someone to turn to, and so it was Greta, and she just sort of said, "No, just keep going. I believe in you."
Yeah,
and not much longer after that, we kind of made it happen. And actually, I'm trying to remember. Maybe I've got it may have been when we had actually all started to come to. I can't remember if it was just before or just after, but it was that early moment, and it was just that realization. And I share that because I'm sure, everybody, and I'm sure for both of you. Everybody thinks that because you made it, you didn't have those moments. Yeah. Like that when you're in that moment feeling like shit, you're thinking, this is the world's way of telling me that I'm not the right person to do this.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, I don't know a person who's succeeded at any level that hasn't had multiple of those moments where they're like, I'm not the right person. I don't deserve to be here. Yeah. Who was I to think that I could pull this off?
Imposter syndrome.
So that was a pretty bad day.
What I found interesting going back to the start again now is that last couple of years I've been in the thick of it. Some days it's working, some days it's not. And you're thinking, oh my God, can we make this happen? And then you realize it was like that the first time around. But by the end, you've told the story so many times and rewritten it in your mind.
You smooth the ups and the downs out. You sort of
that it's kind of like this lovely story. We did this and then we did that and everything went great in the end. But actually, like back at the start, you didn't think it was going to happen. Like you really thought this thing was not going to work for a long time, right? You're just trying every day.
Yeah, I remember quite distinctly many journeys, steps along the way. I would look around at CultureAmp when we were 100 people or 400 people or 100 million in revenue, or we opened our London office or whatever it was. And I'd look around and then I'd remember myself walking into one of our customers, like an Airbnb or a Square or something, when they were doing that. And then looking around going, wow, they've made it. Like when I'm there, I won't have any worries and I'll just feel like I'm on the other side of the hill. But of course you get there and you're just like,
but when you look over the fence, you're looking over somebody else who's building it and you think they've got it all together because we don't see those moments where we think we're not quite right for we doubt ourselves. Yeah. Most people don't. And it's part of the reason why I want to share these sort of stories on this podcast, just to it's hard sometimes being a founder, and you can't tell your board.
No.
You can't talk to your execs. Well, in that case, you didn't have any execs, but it's just really hard to deal with that sometimes. So.
Yeah, you have to almost, in a sense, protect the people under you from the hardest or the scariest stuff, and you have to project confidence to the board above you, and you're this like one fulcrum point in the middle, and you're trying to hold it all together on both sides. Yeah.
And I remember that the other day I would probably think about was it was the same thing post-COVID when we had to do layoffs.
Had you done any layoffs to that point?
No, we hadn't before. I mean, I'd had to do.
You'd move people on, presumably.
Oh yeah, but not in a meaningful sense. I'd had to do it at Rising Sun when the film industry imploded. So that's a story for another day. But just after 9/11, there was no work for 9 months, so everything just stopped because no films were getting greenlit and so on. So that was a really interesting challenge, and we went from nothing to working on Lord of the Rings. So it was one of those crazy turnarounds, but. That point of what you're talking about there, both getting into it, looking at the world changing, looking at the economics changing, no idea what's going to happen on the other side, realizing that you have to make this decision. That was a lonely experience. But the worst day is the day of actually sitting down with people and doing layoffs. And I have this kind of thing about it where, particularly in the Valley, there's a lot of machismo about layoffs. People are like, oh, do layoffs and you'll be a faster, better company. And there are a lot of people that will tell you to your face, oh, we were so much better and faster after layoffs.
Yeah.
My own experience is that that's never true. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. There are times where you have to do it. Like there's no doubt about it. And not doing it is a much worse choice than doing it. And as a leader, you have to lean into those and make that call. Like you are the person that has to make that call.
Yep.
But the way I think about it is it's a little bit like you're trapped in the wilderness and your arm's in a trap. You got to gnaw off your arm. But don't pretend that you're prison fit. Like, you had to make a really hard choice.
Yeah.
You made the choice and you went there. And so I've always been on those days. They're the hardest days because you failed the people. Yeah. Any way you cut it, you failed the people.
Well, and you as a leader, you realize it's not just the people, it's their families, it's everything. Whatever the number is, if it's 10 people, 100, there's a lot of people affected by that.
And I think as a leader, like I've had to coach a lot of people who've had to do it the first time. And that's hard. Like it's really hard as a manager to have to say that to people. But the thing I always tell them is it's hard, but never forget that it's worse to be on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
Like as hard as it is as a leader and a manager to have those conversations.
Well, and they don't want to hear it's hard for you. Like you can't say, oh, this is hard for me.
No.
And I think they'll tell you that because they know you and they care about it and they can see the pain on your face.
Yeah, but it's never as hard for you as it is for them. But
no.
I always found it's almost easier when people get angry. I find it hardest when they get sad and disappointed. That's the hardest because if they get angry, you've almost got something to react to.
Yeah. So those are
that's we did it 2 or 3 times at A-Connect and it was awful. We moved quickly each time, and once we decided to do it, we tried to move as quickly as we could and sort of get it done. Rip the Band-Aid off fast, if you like. But we actually, I reckon, did speed up at least after one of them. But that's probably we weren't managing properly. So we'd let the organisation, we'd gone through a rapid period of growth, and we'd let the company get a bit lazy.
I mean, you can definitely be faster on the other side, and you need to. Like, if you have to make this decision, then you want to sit down and say, okay, cool. How are we going to reorganize ourselves? How are we going to reposition ourselves? Like, how are we going to accept this new reality and use it to make it worthwhile?
Yeah, but it's a bit like AI layoffs now. But I think people are saying, "Oh, I'm laying off because it's not because of the AI. It's not because AI is changing some things, but people have not managed their companies correctly over the last couple of years and blaming AI for it. And I don't even think it's a hangover from COVID because seriously, like you're 5 years after COVID and you haven't moved people on. It doesn't make any sense. But I think people are using screens, but they're not being honest with why they haven't managed their companies correctly.
Yes.
And
and
rather than saying that, like, it's kind of stuffed up.
The world's changed so much that no one had any idea how to manage their companies those ways. Yeah. Like, all we can do is be real about where we find ourselves and try and be honest with people.
Yeah, I think that being authentic is a key thing, just being honest with people. But not trying to suggest for a second that it's hurting me more than it hurts you.
So they're some of the worst days. And it is because I often think what motivates me, and like what motivates me is absolutely the belief and the dream that you can do something special in the world. But I also think that what motivates me is all the people I failed,
Yeah.
like all the way along,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be layoffs. It could be like somebody I hired and it didn't work out, or, somebody that I didn't manage well. I look back on all those people and think I failed every one of them. Like, I got to turn this into something.
Did you take too much responsibility for?
Always.
Because that's the other thing I would sort of blame. Oh, I hired the wrong person. Well, okay, but then I hired the wrong manager, hired the wrong person. Did you wear a lot of that?
Yes, but I still look back on it and think that what motivates me is that you want to be better, not just for yourself. You want to be better for
others,
all those other people.
Yeah.
You want to be in that position where you can make those choices differently.
Do you think, I was talking to someone the other day, and I feel like it's almost become the fashion now. Like you talked about Machismo, it's almost the fashion now in Silicon Valley. I drive a hard ship and everyone works really hard and blah, blah, blah. And it's like motivation.
Like working 7 days a week.
Yeah, I work 7 days a week. And it's been like that for a few years. But, I said this to someone, like, the reason people joined Cloud Guru and love Cloud Guru wasn't that I was not a hard bastard. Like, I'm not. It was that they believed in the mission. Really believed in the mission. They loved the company and the team, the mission we're on. And they believed in what we were doing. And talking to you kind of strikes me, you have a similar leadership style. Would that be fair? Is it more about inspiring your team than carrot versus stick?
I'm a big believer in the guy that wrote The Little Prince. There's a great quote in that, which is that if you want men to build a ship, don't gather the wood and divvy it up and give the men orders.
Yeah.
Instead, teach the men to dream of the endless sea. Like, it's that which drives it.
Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting for me in all of this is, like, I come from that culture. Like, film was that Machismo, 996, like, all through uni, all through high school, I never worked past 10 o'clock at night. I didn't do all-nighters, like, whatever. Like, I worked hard, but I certainly wasn't doing all-nighters, and I didn't kill myself or anything like that. Now I got to work on films. I remember weeks where I would I would work till 5 a.m., get an hour's sleep, be back in the office for the whole week. Like, just day after day after day, because the film had to get made.
Yeah.
And so,
but then could you break after it was done? Or?
Everyone did. Like, and literally you broke. Like, you went home, climbed onto the couch and didn't get up for 3 days because you were figuratively, emotionally, physically exhausted. And so I saw firsthand how completely unsustainable that was.
Yeah.
You can't work at that level, and it doesn't produce the best outcomes.
Especially producing something creative. I would have actually assumed it was the other way.
It's madness.
Well, also, do you want people in your organisation that this working 7 days a week? We weren't built just to work. And would you honestly want to be around people that do nothing but work?
Yeah, and I think the challenge on it is, and we're doing, actually, Culture's doing a bunch of stuff on this right now.
I mean, I want people to work hard, don't get me wrong, but I don't want people to, like,
no.
There's a difference between hard work and
and the
having
challenge
nothing
is you
else
have
but work.
a performance orientation. So any outsized, outlandish company, and I always think, like, as a startup, you have no right to exist.
Yeah.
So to begin with, you kind of got to force your way into the world and kind of pull the doors open. So you need people that are willing to do more than others are. Like, you just need that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on the one hand, you need people that hold a bar to themselves that's higher than any bar you can possibly hold them to. And then you need that mission orientation.
Yeah.
And one of the problems is mission orientation itself doesn't always give you the ladder. And we learned that the hard way too at Culture Amp, where some of the people that wanted to be at Culture Amp the most, we used to probably over-rotate to how much people believed in the mission. And then you get people that are like, our mission is to create a better world of work. So they're like, I really believe in creating a better world of work. But when you dig beneath the surface, you're like, you've never been a place that you think's good, and you've never taken any accountability for it. Like, you think everybody else needs to come meet you. Like, where's your personal accountability?
Yes.
And so I think in startups, you need both.
Yeah.
You need people that have that drive and that mission orientation, and know how to have enough fun to be able to not just be working all the time.
Well, if you're stuck in an airport with somebody, you got to have people that you can have it, whatever, and have fun with, have a beer with, whatever it is. But
and leading a mission-oriented company, like, every time I've interacted with you, it's been very clear to me that you're a good storyteller. Like, you're a very good orator and you're engaging storyteller. Like, is that is that the tool that you use to lead, I guess, to inspire your company around a mission? Is it story?
Yeah, I mean,
which
obviously,
comes from your background.
I'm trained in that Although I probably didn't realize it while I was in Hollywood that that's what I was absorbing.
Right.
But yeah, I fundamentally believe that storytelling it works at a level of our brain that we're probably not even aware of.
Yeah.
And it's the best way to sell.
Hmm.
It's the best way to connect.
Yeah.
And it has to be authentic too. So that's kind of like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
the break on it. Like you can't just make all this stuff up. Well, some people can, but that's
It wears thin though.
Yeah.
You see it over time, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be remiss not to talk about what the story looks like with AI now. So what's, it's dramatically changing how companies hire staff, everything. And I know you're thinking deeply about this. We could speak around an hour or two on this, but what are 2 or 3 things that you're really engaging with companies around what AI means for their workforce, what it means for how they manage their people, how they hire?
Yeah, I mean, we're like Culture Amp as a platform, if you think about it, up until now, has really been about giving you the intelligence, like what is going on, what is the experience people are having, bringing that to bear, and then helping you on the action side. So what should you do? What could you do in these environments? But the challenge now is, I think, really a leadership capability gap in this new world. So how do leaders are having to handle more people, like spans of control are getting bigger. ICs themselves are now having to have almost a manager mindset because they're running agents, they're having to prioritize. And so we see a huge opportunity for the Culture Amp platform to help both managers and ICs using AI to help them actually lean into this more, right? And so we really think of it as call it a culture OS, or what is the orchestration layer, not just of what you do, but how you do it. Like when you go into a meeting, AI today will tell you, you've got a meeting in 10 minutes with Sam, but it doesn't tell you who Sam is and what how you need to show up in that meeting and all of those things. So we see a huge opportunity to help there. But I think for me, one of the things I'm talking to a lot of companies about right now is I think the biggest gap for most companies is not information asymmetry. It's true, there's lack of information, but the biggest one is imagination asymmetry. So what I mean by that is because we're on this exponential curve, most people have got a mental model of what's possible. And so they're looking at stuff and they're not even thinking of AI in certain ways. And so then you spend any time with somebody who's further along the curve and you just see them without even thinking, they just use AI to do something. And you're like, I'd never thought of that. I'd never thought of using AI to do that.
It's not incremental anymore.
It's not incremental. Yeah. And so what we need to do inside our organizations is find ways to lift people's imagination more than anything.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of technical problems to solve. But unless you have that imagination, everything else is pointless. And I'm seeing this time and time again where even internally we were looking at something and I read the article and they're like, all right, we're going to map all this out and then we're basically going to figure out what we're going to automate and then we're going to create these agents to automate all these things. But none of the people that are doing that understand what it could be. And you look at it and go, that's one surface. Like that could be something totally, and then you mock it up and you show it to them and they're like, oh, yes, that's what it should be. So that's the unlock, I think, right now. It's imagination.
Yeah. And do you think AI can ever deliver that instead of people?
No, but I think it's
imagination of the people to use
correct
the tool set well.
Yeah, and teaching them, like, so much of you're both using AI a lot, and you probably get there's this point where you realize that the best thing is often just to turn it back on the AI and ask it itself. Yeah. And it becomes a reflexive process rather than a one-shot process.
Reflexively telling you what you want to hear.
Well, a bit of that. But just a little thing, like we were talking about this before, just before we walked in. Yeah. You build something and then you go, oh, this is interesting. Can you just take the principles underneath this and expose it to me as a series of things that I can edit? And then I'll edit that and it'll give me more control over this. And so there's all these little hooks in the way there.
I think you described it as a control panel or a config panel for whatever the AI is doing. I love that.
Yeah. And so I think really there's so much there, but it's more than just adoption. Yeah. It's imagination.
So with culture being different between different companies, to some degree, we've got to get AI to have the context of our companies. Because
that's exactly it.
I don't know it's quite doing it yet and yes, it can learn over time, but the right answer in one company will be the wrong answer somewhere else.
There's no perfect culture. And so, we think about, if you think about Culture Amp, Culture Amp's really, how do we help every company unlock the performance culture that's right for them? Yeah. And we can bring science to bear. Like one of my favorite lines is, every culture is unique, but your problems are not. So like we can share a lot of information on the problems that you have, but your specific culture is unique. And having that cultural context layer, because here's something to bake your noodle. people are redesigning values at the moment. They're sitting down going, what should our values be? And a lot of people in the age of AI, like, it's about urgency and it's about speed. It's like, you're not writing values just for humans anymore. You're writing values for agents.
Yeah.
Do you really want your agents to have a value of urgency?
Well, they're already
I
urgent
don't
enough.
think you do.
Yeah.
And so, like, we have to think about the cultural context that we create is going to run both the humans and the agentic parts of our
So I
organizations.
was going to ask you about that because you hear a lot about AI employees. We're all going to have AI employees. I struggle with it with just even understanding what that even means.
And if stuff's up, how do you fire it? I mean, you can turn it off.
Yeah,
But-
and is it just running an agent, an
But
AI
how-
employee?
Well, there's two schools
Do
of
you know
thought
what I mean?
on
Like, what
this.
even is it?
Yeah, there's two schools of thought on this. One school is that we should think of them as being on the org chart.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is largely around delegated accountability.
Mhm.
Because then we can say, oh,
That agent is...
Sam has a coding
yeah.
agent that works for Sam. So Sam's accountable for everything that he does.
It's
and we
more-
can delegate through you to the
Oh,
agent.
God.
It's not so much for them, but it's more who's responsible for the agent.
Well, we
a
already
sense.
have a whole bunch of governance frameworks for people on org charts. So we
Yeah.
can use delegated authority and all that sort of stuff. My own take, and it may change, but my own take is I think that's a disservice to what's capable with AI. And so I like to think of it almost as a matrix. If you have humans down one axis and you have AI agentic capability on the other axis, you want all the interesting intersection points.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
we can
Yeah.
write a coding agent and 50 people can interact with that coding system. That's a coding capability.
But someone
It's not
owns it.
50 coders.
Right.
That's my own view on it, but that's definitely what's going to be fought out over the next year.
But are you saying someone in the org has to be responsible for that coding agent?
Yes, but I think responsible more in a steward librarian sense than in a traditional you hired and fired the person sense. Because what you're actually doing is looking at what's the eval framework we have for that system. How do we know if that system's working well?
Yeah.
And once again, something you and I were talking about before, whose eyes are on the glass?
Yeah.
So who's watching the traces from this stuff and looking at it going, why did it do that? Because the thing is, the systems now largely are just as good as humans. Like they make mistakes, but because we can automate them, we can now do 100 times faster. And so it's one of those things where when we talk about it internally,
Management problem.
it's a
as you
management
talked about
problem.
earlier,
And you actually have to start by going, not how do we build a system so it doesn't make mistakes? We have to go, what happens when it makes a mistake? How does it get detected? What do we do? What's the remediation? That's what we should be talking about, not how do you build a system that won't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Then how do you stop people? Oh, we all hate having well, we shouldn't, but a lot of us hate having hard conversations with people, and trying to avoid. A lot of managers will try and avoid them.
Yeah.
You can just see a world where I'll get the agent to do it. I'll get the people being fired not by text but by the agent.
It's already happened.
I'm sure it's
I
happened,
can think of
yeah.
multiple times it's happened.
Really?
Oh yeah, I know
I
people
mean, that's
specifically.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine being fired by?
Hold on,
You're being fired
what?
by an agent.
Yeah.
So how does that work? What does that look like?
You don't have to have George
It turns
Clooney
into
flying
a
around the
lawsuit.
country.
That's what it does.
So you get an email or a chat from an AI saying
Pretty much. Yeah.
you're out.
Yeah. But
But then you'd ask it, what did you think of my work? Oh, you're amazing at your job.
Yeah.
But you're still
brilliant.
fired. You're brilliant.
Good on you.
Yeah, good on you.
I mean,
You're a great coder.
at Coltrane, we're leading into the flip side of that, which is people do struggle with hard conversations. So how do we help them? Like one of the things
And AI can help them if it's done in the right way, I think. So
Correct.
Help tee up a
So
conversation and
the AI coach that we launched last year, that helps people think through, because often the challenge you would know as a senior leader, it's not in cut it dried as you have to fire this person. It's I'm starting to think I might have an issue with this person.
Yeah.
So you're starting to navigate with yourself, and then you've actually got to figure out, well, are you setting clear expectations? Where is the gap here? Is it that they're clearly not meeting them, or is it that you could do more? And that's always a hard one.
Yeah.
So you actually want to start right back there. You want to help people through that whole journey. And I think half the time we could probably help people not fire some people that shouldn't have been fired because the leader could have been better. But then when they get to the point where they have to do it, you can also help them sit down and go, well, let's get really clear about why you're doing this.
Yeah.
You can practice it with the AI first. And I know, not necessarily firing people, but in terms of having hard conversations, I've used the AI coach. And my reflection is, I don't walk away going, I'd never thought that if it hadn't told me. But it gives me the confidence that I'm now ready to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of bounced it back.
Yeah.
And I think AI does that pretty well.
That's kind of what your people team do traditionally, right? Like you have that partner in the people team that help you through managing someone through a process.
But we used to see people, often managers would lean on HR.
Oh,
So rather than
yes,
having the guts to have the hard conversation
push it
themselves,
off.
they
it's managers'
push
job
it
to
off
fire
to
people, not
exactly.
HRs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And we used to say, no,
Unless it's an
HR
egregious.
HR will not be in the, like,
100%.
HR may be there, but they're not talking. You're managing the process. But some of our weaker managers would lean heavily on HR. And
Yeah.
so,
Because that's
100%,
part of the thing that you got to do as a manager too, which is like, the number of times somebody's a non-regrettable exit, and then you go back and you read the hiring notes and they're like, we have to hire this person at all costs. You're like, what changed? Sometimes the person didn't live up to the expectations, but often it's just a kind of weird mix of, you weren't really clear with the expectations, they didn't really understand, some stuff changed, you didn't handle the dynamics in the team. And so there's so much we could do to make that better.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so you've now, I think in January, you
Mm-hmm.
moved to a chairman role
Yep.
at Culture App. Yeah, take us through what the thinking was there and what that transition's been like.
Yeah, so I'm now the exec chair at Culture Amp.
Yep.
So I was fortunate to be able to promote my chief operating officer, Carolyn Rawlinson, up into the role. And so for me now, I work with her. Obviously, I chair the board and focus on strategy, but meet with her every week and meet with our chief product officer. And it's given me this great opportunity to really just focus on AI.
Yeah.
Like I'm building my own stuff outside of Culture Amp. I'm helping with the teams inside of Culture Amp. And these things are always complicated and timing is always all over the place. It's a very personal and convoluted path to go down to make that choice.
Yeah.
But I look back and I'm like, I actually don't think I could have timed it any better because
because it's a landscape shift.
Yeah, like somewhere between November and February, AI kind of hit a turning point where the speed of replication just took off.
Yeah.
And to be able to be there and just be doing stuff while it's happening and watching it, like each morning I see something, it's like, it's a crazy time to be out there looking.
Yeah.
And the truth of it is, both of you know now that you're back in it, as a CEO, you don't have time. You got 1,000 things to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually feeling really blessed to be able to step out and just think about some of where this is all going and try and figure out how to position Culture Amp for it. And also just to think more broadly, like even outside of Culture Amp, where the hell's this going?
Is it hard to keep your mitts off as a founder and previous CEO?
You should probably ask Caro rather than asking me. But, I think I'm doing a reasonably good job.
Yeah.
And I went in, I got lots of good advice from other people that have done this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the benefits of having done it for as long as I have. I know lots of people that are now in the executive chair role or have been in the executive chair role.
Yeah.
And they all said the same things, which is like, yes, you got to give that person space and time. You're heavily invested in their success. So your job is to, any good idea you have should be theirs. And also,
nice.
part of your job is
I
to
like that.
give them some space, like actually point stuff out to them and go, hey, this thing over here that's broken, that's not your problem. That was my problem. I spent 2 years trying to fix that and I couldn't fix it. I hope you can get to it, but you're not going to get there straight away. So, that's not on you. That's on me.
Yeah.
And so like I spend a lot of time trying to do that and create that space for her. And, we get on really well. And so far it's been really, really great. And I think all I would say if anyone's listened to this podcast who's contemplating this is there's lots of people in the Australian ecosystem who've gone through it. Everyone's situation different. So go talk to some of them. They'll have lots of good advice.
That's the beauty of the ecosystem now, right? It's just that it's big enough now that there is a lot of people who, like, for all the possible scenarios, there's someone to talk to or multiple people to talk to.
And I think
10 years ago we didn't have.
No, exactly. And people would be surprised how willing people are to give it. But also, I'm also surprised how people like, you don't reach out to, someone who's done all this time and go, hey, can I have coffee? Like, okay. Like, you got to have an actual question, a specific thing, and why are they the specific relevant person? So if somebody's like, hey, I'm a CEO who's contemplating going to exec chair, there's probably 6 people in Australia that have gone through that.
Yeah.
Any one of them would probably talk to you.
Yeah.
If that's the specific ask.
Yeah.
And that specific thing, how do you make, because you get a lot of requests to catch up with people, how do you make time or otherwise? How do you think about that?
Yeah, it's hard. I probably say yes more than I should.
Yeah.
One actually piece of advice I got from somebody else that I don't do enough, but it's a good one, is actually I keep a template of no's. So every time somebody says no to me in a particularly elegant way,
you'll
I
keep
write
that,
it down so that I can use it next time.
I'm not particularly good at saying no either, but
The
there
no
are some
menu.
really good ones.
The no menu.
thankfully Fleur's bloody good at it, so she can help me on that. But.
So yeah, I probably don't say no enough, if I'm totally honest. But also, my take is I try and look at it and I want to give back to people that don't have any other avenue.
Yeah.
So I try to look at it and go, is there a reason why? I'll just step back. There's a Buckminster Fuller quote that really stuck with me, which is, what is it that that you know something about that needs doing that probably won't happen if you don't do it? And it's that last bit for me that I probably focus on the most. If somebody's asking me for generic advice that they can get from a whole bunch of people, I'm not necessarily the right person to give it, then I can say no. But if there's a specific reason, and particularly if they haven't come to it with all the advantages that we have, then I'm much more open to it, and I try and do what I can, and I try and give people at least one because so many people did along the way. Like the number of people that were willing to chat is crazy.
Yeah, so in our journey, people were pretty generous with their time.
I think
generally, Although I find now it's just hard to, if I said yes to every request, couldn't possibly do it. So, I mean, actually this podcast is one way of sharing our stories more broadly so that, because it can't have a coffee. Yeah, one to many. So it leverages our time. But but again, I'm not very good at saying
I think it's something the VC community could be better at. There's a lot of intros. Just, you need to, hey, connect you both, have a coffee. It's like, why? And it's because you do want to help people, and then it's hard to say no. But if you say yes to everything, you get nothing done.
It's been a bit easier now, back fully into the trenches with Firmable, that I just don't have time.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to manage my time, but better. But when you don't have when I was on a few boards and just investing in inverted commas, it's a lot of, you don't have a reason to say no, and that I often found
the one I find American VCs do is that, you two are Australian, you should meet.
Somebody said once, which is like, early in your career, so much of your success comes from being able to say yes. Like, just say yes more often, follow things, chase things. But then there's a point where you have to flip that. And you're successful in being able to say no, because you need to be able to be more focused.
We have a co-founder like Rob who just says no to everything. So
it's a superpower.
We used to balance each other up nicely. So
there's a few of them that have that superpower.
I was in sales. I'd want to come back and in sales. I was always out with customers. I'll be yes, and he's like no. He's on the product side. So
I wanted to ask, in some of the notes here, it says that you believe a leader's job is to absorb fear. And I loved that. I just thought it'd be great to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, I actually got that from Tony Xu, who's the CEO and founder of DoorDash.
Oh, okay.
Because my old exec coach was his coach as well. He was my coach and his coach. He was also Steve Jobs' coach in an earlier part of his life.
You're in pretty good company.
He was a very cool coach, John Baird.
Wow.
And it was actually post-COVID. And a lot of leaders around the world were sharing notes with each other, like, how do we turn up? How do we navigate this? And I remember him saying this on a call where he said, your job as a leader is to absorb fear. And you don't do that by pretending to know things you don't. But particularly in that situation like coming out of COVID where everything was uncertain, if we just leave everything uncertain, people cannot function.
Yeah.
And so you actually have to sort of sit down and create a container. We've done a lot of work with Esther Perel, and she talks about this a lot, which is she would say your job as a leader is to create a container, help people go, and the way Tony Xu would do it, which I thought was really fantastic, was he would say, okay, this just happened yesterday in the world. It's going to change all of these things. It's going to have this effect on the business. We have no idea what's going to happen over here. This thing that we were hoping for may not happen. We can't control any of those things. This is the plan that we have. These are the things in our control. And so it was literally divert you away from looking into the abyss, back to the 2 steps in front of you. Let's just take those 2 steps.
I like that.
And so I do think that's your job as a leader, is to absorb fear by going, this is what's going on.
Which also means you can carry a lot, because, if you, there are times on our journey where we were close to running out of money. And so you can't project fear onto the team. Like, you're deeply afraid that something won't happen, or you'll run out of money and you have to fire everybody, and company's over. So you're absorbing a lot. I think sometimes maybe having a coach, maybe having somebody beside you who, because if all you do is absorb fear, I worry that you end up carrying too much. So how you can
you have to share it, but it's also...
But you can't share it with it's who you share it with. I think you're about to maybe share it external to the organisation with a mentor or...
Sometimes we shouldn't overlook how meaningful it is for people to be able to go, everything's gone to shit. These are the challenges we have in front of us. I see them too. So one of the things I've always found useful in storytelling
being authentic
is the more that you can talk to what you know is going on in people's head, the better. So somebody's sitting there going, shit, are we all going to be gone at the end of the year? You almost want to use those words. You want to say to people, some of you, and if I was you, you're probably thinking, are we all going to be gone at the end of the year? Actually say the words out loud, because then it takes it from that dark, scary place in their brain and it puts it out in space.
Right.
And then you say, okay, that may be true. There may be stuff we can't do that would stop that. However, what I do know is we can control on these things.
Yeah.
And no matter what, we're going to do this together. We've got this far together. We're going to go forward together. And that's what people need, is they need to know that you're here in it together, that you're not, oblivious, that you're not pretending. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Call it out. And it brings calm, right? It brings calm. I think that's what people value in leadership is, it's kind of like weird. I don't know if this is weird, but like your parents, when you're a kid, they bring you calm in a scary world. Like, they're there to protect you. And I think people kind of want that from a leader.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you understand where they're coming from. I think by calling out what their fear is, you say you show that you understand to some degree what they're going through.
Yeah, and then you can sort of...
But again, not having the answers, sometimes assuming that you have projecting that you have all the answers can... people don't
read
that. People, read straight through it. So it's you better just when you
they want to know if
you're
being honest. That's what they want to know.
Yeah,
are you being honest with me?
Yeah.
Great, Didier. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
It's been awesome.
Back down memory lane.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend another hour on leadership. Maybe we'll get you back for a session purely on leadership.
When we did
I also want to know what you did on Lord of the Rings.
The pit of
battle
doom.
scenes.
You know when he throws the ring down into the pit of doom?
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked on that shot.
At the end?
Yeah, so that was fun.
Really? Well, you just spoiled Lord of the Rings, by the way. Spoiler alert.
For the 3 people in the world that haven't seen it or read the book, you've spoiled it.
Can we do a spoiler alert?
So those of you who don't know what happens in the Lord of the Rings, again, if you yes, even the AI knows what happens there, and
yeah, everyone knows.
Well, again, thank you, Didier. Been great to have you. And
how many of these are you going to do?
We've got a lot planned, but again, just to tell
every few weeks
founder stories, and we just want to get it out there and tell
normalize
the real stories, normalize it, make the hard. Well, not going to make it easy, but we'll make the hard at least somewhat bearable. But also give people that you're not alone. I mean, you're building a company; it's hard, and you can be very lonely in dark places every now and then, as we've talked about some of that. But knowing that every founder's been through it in one way or another.
And I think we just what people have been a bit further through the journey now. Australia has a good group of those folks to be able to, for new founders coming through, to go, oh, okay, that wasn't easy for them either. Right?
Yeah. So again, thank you, Didier. And to all of you who've watched the podcast or listened to the podcast, thank you for following. We'd love you to share this with other founders who are going on the journey. And also send founders our way that have great stories to tell. And of course, send us questions. We'd be happy to ask, for you to ask them and for us to try and answer them and to bring people on who might be able to answer them for you. Thanks all.
Awesome. Thanks.